Me trying to find the eggs in a supermarket I've not been in before.
Maybe I'm going in the wrong direction and need to rethink my strategy.
Me to the person serving me in Starbucks when they say sorry for the wait.
I've waited 17 months, 25 days and 2 hours.
And this is me in that supermarket when I finally cave in and ask someone who's stacking the shelves where the eggs are.
Perhaps it's time to seek some professional help.
Hello guys, welcome back to the show. So today it's going to be a relatively quick one. We're going to talk about an interesting video that Jeremy Fragrance did about what he called, in inverted commas, overpriced fragrances, and what you think about his video, okay? Before we do that, don't forget that if you're looking to buy fragrance samples, my recommended UK-based fragrance sampling site is fragrancesamplesuk.com. The code SMELLY10 gets you 10% off their huge array of designer and niche fragrances. My recommended USA-based sampling site is decantboutique.com, and there the code MrSmelly10 will get you 10% off. Both great sites are linked in the description of this video. Okay, so Jeremy Fragrance has done this little clip here where he's talking about his most recent release, which is called Most Masculine.
My fragrance costs over $500. Is this overpriced? Yes. But at the same time, when I started my fragrance brand, I thought of selling my fragrance for about 39 euros. That translates to about $45, and depending on the currency exchange. And then somebody told me, I feel like I'm more worthy than a 39 euro fragrance. And so I increased the price and went up to, let's say, something like 140 or 160. Now my office fragrance is at 249. So happy to those that bought it for cheap back then. And this one is over $500. So it's easy to create fragrances, but it's a challenge to make people buy them. I make the best fragrances for specific situations like the office or the date. I'm the #1 fragrance icon that follows the teachings of Jesus.
So there it is. Okay, I think that's really interesting. So I actually, on the whole, agree with his point. I think that ultimately things are worth what people are willing to pay for them. It's kind of that simple. The idea that there's some kind of justice involved here, or that the thing that you're buying should cost almost the same as what you're paying for it to make, may make sense in some parts of retail and some parts of the world, but in most parts of life it doesn't. Now, I want to just remind you, if you are looking for a slightly lower priced fragrance, but absolutely, in my opinion, just as amazing, it may be more so, but I haven't tried Most Masculine. Arezzo from Norton & Wilson is our new release at nortonandwilson.com, and you can buy that in the USA, UK and Canada. It is an incredible composition from perfumer John Stephen. Mandarin, brandy, plum, orris butter, Cambodian oud and tobacco. Is decadent yet refined. We've had really great reviews, and we do still have a little bit of stock left of our bundle deal for Gravitas Pour On plus Gravitas Essentia. We're nearly sold out of Gravitas in the USA, but we have a man rowing over the Atlantic with some more, so that should be back in stock very soon, and we have a little bit of stock left in the UK for sure. So go to nortonandwilson.com and look for the bundle deal. If you're in the EU, please email us at info@nortonandwilson.com, and we can take your order via email, not through the website at the moment, but email info@nortonandwilson.com, and we will help you to make an order in the EU. Okay. Jeremy's point there. Okay, first thing that he said is the fragrance overpriced? And he actually said yes, which is actually very honest of him. And I think he's right about his point that he said he was going to price it around $40 or 40 euros or whatever he said. Some people will think, well, I want to buy something that's expensive and luxurious. And so it's not as attractive to some people to buy a cheaper fragrance. And to be honest, if you're starting a business, if you're running a business, if you're looking to do well, those are the kind of customers you want to be marketing your business at, if you can, more so than where you have to sell 10 fragrances to make $300 or whatever it may be. So, in other words, let's say he prices at $500 instead of $150. Well, even if he sells only half as many, because half the people won't buy at that very high price, he still can make more money only by making less sales at a higher price. And to be honest, that's a win for him, isn't it? Because the cost of producing it will be lower because he's only got to send out and make one, and he's got the money coming in. So obviously there's a point where you're just pricing yourself too high and people don't buy it. That's the thing that you've got to get right. But the logic of what he says, it makes sense to me. The thing that you're buying into, as he said before, he once said that you're kind of paying for the artistry. So if you bought a Picasso painting, you're not paying for the cost of the paint or the canvas or even the frame, but the fact that it's made by Picasso. Now, there's a slight problem with this analogy, because if you're buying an original Picasso, hopefully there's only one of those ever been painted. It's not a recreation, whereas with a fragrance you can make hundreds or thousands of them. But you are buying to some extent the artistry of the perfume and buying into the story, the Jeremy fragrance thing. Now, many of you watching this will say, I don't buy into that at all, but clearly many people, even millions of people around the world, at least to some extent, do buy into that. And therefore, it's perfectly reasonable for him to price that at whatever level he thinks. And as I say, it's worth what people are willing to pay for it. There's a certain reverse psychology. I saw something the other day where someone said in a restaurant, I forget what the word is for this type of item, but they'll put something on the menu that costs a very, very high price, some kind of lobster marinade or whatever, and it's like $350 or whatever. And very few people ever buy it. But the fact that that item is there makes the next thing down, the filet mignon or whatever, at $175 seem very reasonable, and they do great on that. So if you price things very high, maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't even care if he sells any most masculine. Maybe he's only made 10 bottles and he knows no one will buy them. It makes people suddenly think, well, Date for Men or Office for Men or Unisex, his other fragrances at Fragrance One, I think that's what the brand's still called, now seem like really good value. So I get what he's saying here, and I don't think there's anything morally wrong with what he's doing, because at the end of the day, nobody's forcing anyone to buy his stuff. However, I haven't tried the fragrance, and I definitely won't be spending $500 to buy it. But I'm always interested to follow what Jeremy's up to, and the other stuff he said at the end there, about the teachings of Jesus, I don't get why he says that in his videos, because great if he follows the teachings of Jesus, but surely isn't he only going to alienate all the people who don't happen to follow the teachings of Jesus? And even those who do, I doubt many of those will look at Jeremy Fragrances and think he's a great example of someone following the teachings of Jesus, because he's doing it in a rather eccentric way, let's say that. But what do you think about that? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. And although sometimes life may stink, at least if we wear Norton & Wilson fragrances, we can always smell good, right? Bye-bye.